Hey guys, so I just posted a video today, and technically this one will be posted tomorrow. There's a few things I could talk about. I can talk about Dev and stupidity he's pushing on Twitter X right now about... he's basically denying that any fraud happened in Minnesota whatsoever. So, okay. So he's doubling and tripling down on his delusions that the Democrats are perfect angels. I don't have enough information on that. So people were posting tweets that he was saying, and I'm just like, oh god, I just don't like this guy. I don't want to make my entire channel complain about him. I could also talk about Maduro going down, which, hell yeah, cool. I did have an Australian girl tell me that she's really upset because she thinks the oil companies are going to steal all the oil and not pay Venezuela at all for any of it. Which I told her, look, if that happens, I'll denounce it. But as far as I'm aware, we didn't do that to Kuwait when we, came in and saved them during Desert Storm. So I don't see us doing that to Venezuela. Especially since Trump is already, under scrutiny from literally the entire world. And he probably doesn't want additional crap going on that's just completely unnecessary like that. And then she also wanted me to pay attention to corporations taking advantage of farmers in Alabama and other places, saying that they're using their monopoly to run farmers out of business. And then tried to blame Trump for that, and I told her it's we have a separation of powers inside the United States. If that's happening, it is the job of the executive branch to investigate it, yes, but it's the jobs of the courts to break up monopolies. The executive branch has nothing to do with that whatsoever. The actual courts have to get involved, and it either has to be a class action lawsuit from the farmers themselves going after the companies. And it would have to be a class action lawsuit, because if you're going after a major corporation, then yes, you're going to need a lot of farmers with a lot of pooled money in order to fight the giant expensive lawyers that they got, their giant army of expensive lawyers that they got. So instead, I'm going to talk about what I talked about yesterday in today's video, technically. And that is that I was watching the Nettles Change the Channel playlist, and I did that during work, and I'm actually going to listen to it again, and maybe while I'm at work, because it was so interesting that I actually I kind of wanted to squeeze into my head a little bit better, and I might even take notes on it, honestly, because there's so many names thrown around that it's very easy to lose track on who complained about what. So apparently Benzai, the French dude, had the best arguments in the entire document, and it was basically boiled down to, well, that was kind of rude. They should have he should have got a contract, but at least he had some problems with the management, and he regrets not getting a contract, or something he realized that he screwed up for doing his work for free. And he should have gotten a contract and made sure that he was actually being paid directly for producing content, instead of just being somebody who contributes to the website as a producer. Which, actually, that's fair. If everyone had done that, I mean, only 5 of them would have actually been producers in the first place, but at least then a lot of the complaints that came up would have been easily solved by, not having petty shit aired out in public, by having an NDA in place. Because, again, if you read the document, the 70-page document, it's all petty BS. It's all worthless, besides for, again, 3 people. But when I watched the playlist yesterday, and I made today's video yesterday, my tenses are confused now. Hi. I didn't see you at all. Jesus. Anyways, I really do pay attention while I'm driving and talking, but I did look through my mirror and he must have been in my blind spot and going half the speed limit. Anyways. Okay, he wasn't going half the speed limit. But anyways. That completely derailed my thoughts. Oh boy, my professionalism. Focus on your driving. Focus on your driving. Okay. Anyways. So, the document. When I watched the playlist yesterday and made my video, I had not watched the 8th one because the 8th one was 2 hours long. I didn't have enough time yesterday to listen to it until last night after I made the video because I knew people would be home and I didn't want to wake them up. I didn't want to interrupt anything. So I made sure to make my video while I was driving instead of doing it at home. So I was not aware of a lot of stuff that was going on. Basically, my rationale when the Channel Also thing originally happened was that there was accusations of sexism. And by that point, Trump had won. I had started to reconsider politics altogether. I had voted for him. And after not voting for him in the primaries, and I was like, wow, okay. So my entire worldview started changing once I saw like what the media was doing and what like people were saying online, because they were being absolutely horrible. Like, it's like a pack of wild animals, the kind of stuff, horrible stuff they were saying. None of it provable, none of it like, in my mind, I'm intelligent enough to smell bullshit when I see it. Smell bullshit when I see it. God, okay. Smell bullshit when it's near me, I guess. So, put under my nose. Let's say it like that, okay? So, when I heard accusation of sexism, I'm like, this is leftist crap. That's defamatory. They're just trying to cancel him. I've seen cancellations before, and it's usually somebody who didn't deserve it. Or if they had done anything wrong, it was something so minor that they didn't deserve to have their entire lives ruined and their careers forever halted and blacklisted from every community and every, like, outlet for work, including working as a 9-to-5 dude at McDonald's. And that would be the kind of cancellations they were doing, so I was like, they're calling him sexist? That's, like, one of their main arguments. They said that there was, like, some sexual allegations. And I'm just like, no, that has to be BS. And after there was no lawsuit, no class action lawsuit, nothing ever came of it. People still started, I will kind of follow the herd, or the majority of people. After everything has cooled down and months have passed and everyone's done their research and like they come to a decision. Not always. But in the case of the Nostalgia Critic, everyone was like, that don't matter, it's not important. And they just moved on and they kept watching him like nothing ever happened. Now maybe everybody's just ignorant and they don't understand like all the horrible things that were going on. But with all the other stuff that was being said and done at the time, I was just like, yeah, there's no way. And I learned a little bit of stuff here or there, and then I started watching more Linkara videos, and now I realized, oh my god, this guy's gone full leftist. Like, again, I have mentioned this in other videos. He was criticizing comic books for having fan service for men. Meanwhile, a single manga series was outselling the entire comic book industry by itself. A single manga series, the entire comic book industry, outselling. And you can bet your bottom dollar that there's a lot of fan service in manga, because those people don't care about PC culture. I was just really starting to get sick of PC culture around that time, and my disdain for it has not... Actually, my disdain for it has probably just increased since then. But anyways, after a while, I'm just like, yeah, this is all BS. Nothing happened. But I didn't know, like, the most intimate details of it. And then after watching the first 7 videos, I'm like, okay, this is all petty bullshit. And there was some maybe sexual allegations against the producer. And I wasn't sure on, like, how detailed that would be. And I didn't know that it was the guy who took a gun to himself. JewWario. Which, by the way, was the guy Jewish, or did he really use the word Jew inside of his name? I mean, I guess that's fine. It's just, if he wasn't Jewish, it'd be kind of strange. Not unethical, not like cultural appropriation or anything like that. I don't really care about that kind of stuff. But it's just a very strange name. But apparently, at a convention, okay, let's just go with that. At a convention, there is certifiable proof, witness testimony, I mean, from multiple people that collaborate that he went into a drunk woman's hotel room and inserted those into her while she was unconscious and drunk. And he didn't make sexual contact with his private parts, as far as we're aware. She was unconscious. And she woke up sober enough to issue a threat to him that made him run out the door. This was told to management, and that week he was gone. And then later he took a gun to himself. And that victim is still alive, obviously. So when I said like those videos made my day, that one was a capper that kind of, brought down my mood again. But I was right. I was still right about the producers. Because as it turns out, the majority of the producers weren't told about this. Because the accuser didn't want an investigation, didn't want it out in public, was afraid for her life, despite assurances that she would be fine. And she was afraid that JewWario's audience, who loved him and were rabidly obsessed with him, were going to come after her, both verbally, physically, and come after her career and everything along those lines. And she was just, I don't want to deal with it, I refuse. And she basically wanted it to keep it the civilian version of a restricted report. Now, if you don't know what restricted and unrestricted reports are in the military, and this might just be a Marine thing, but I'm sure it's with all branches have their own version. But if you are sexually assaulted, or there's some kind of sexual, like even just like sexual harassment or something you're just not comfortable with, you can make a restricted report. The CEO will be informed, not the CEO, the commanding officer, the CO will be informed that something happened and I think I don't know if the name of the person is even released, but the person who's being accused is definitely not released. And not only is the CEO informed, but the general. Like, the general. The top general. The big general. The commandant. But if it's unrestricted, that means the police or the MPs are immediately involved. There has to be tests, there has to be evidence gathered, and you cannot restrict the report. Once the report is unrestricted, it is forever unrestricted, and all legal actions will be taken. You cannot stop it once it's unrestricted. But if you keep it restricted, you can make it unrestricted at any time, but you cannot make it restricted after it's been unrestricted. So basically, she said, I don't want the police involved, therefore there is no evidence, therefore the police couldn't be involved, therefore no accusations could be made against JewWario because they would be considered defamation. And he probably wouldn't sue, honestly. He probably would just be like, either ignore it if he was smart, or say, this is libel, this is all BS, that never happened. And he wouldn't sue. Because if he sued, that would put pressure on the victim to actually come out and make a police report. Now, he could try to sue, and then, at that point, the victim could still say, no, I don't want to do it. And then the producer, with no evidence coming out against the producer, suddenly that would mean that, hey, everyone's going to believe the producer and that the allegations are false. So, with no evidence, they couldn't report him to the police. They could just get rid of him. He wasn't an employee, so he just got his collaboration deal severed. And it wasn't a contract, so it was just, you're done, gone, bye. We don't have to explain anything. You know what you did. Whatever. And then he later took a gun to himself. And, well, at that point, they still couldn't say anything against him because the victim still didn't want to come out. And if they had said anything at that point, that would mean that the wife could hit them with a defamation lawsuit and they would be stuck in the same position they were before, except now they would be defaming, or at least speaking ill of the dead, against the will of the victim, on top of it. So they were in a lose-lose situation, so they had to say something because he was loved by the community. So Doug Walker decided to make a memoriam for him, and then quietly didn't say anything. Like, he didn't tell any of the producers. It was none of their business. He didn't want it leaked. And a bunch of the producers on their own also made memoriams, which looked really bad in hindsight once it came out that when the producers made that 70-page list, they had an anonymous person say that she had consensual sex with a producer. She was 18, she agreed to it, she wasn't drunk, but she had the mind of a 16-year-old, and therefore she didn't think she was able to consent even though legally she could. Okay, it's not Channel Awesome's fault that you're not emotionally immature enough to accept your legal rights of consent. That's literally not their problem. Like, you're old enough to consent. Like, if you're not mature enough to handle sex, well, a lot of people regret it afterwards, but you're a consenting legal adult. Okay? But Channel Awesome apparently didn't read it closely enough because they thought they were talking about JewWario and the victim. So they released chat logs with Holly, one of the accusers in the document. And when I say accusers, I'm not saying she was sexually assaulted. I'm saying that she was one of the people saying that there was abuse inside the company, like vocational or occupational abuse. I mean, not like sexual abuse. But the chat logs with Holly showed the date of the conversation, which was days before JewWario was kicked off the channel. And they said it was a mutual split. So everyone suddenly realized, wait, was JewWario the sexual assaulter? And yes, he was. Yes, he was. And Holly had dinner with him afterwards. Like, she knew. And she knew the victim. And she's supposedly friends with the victim. And then she invited the guy out to dinner. It's just... It's all a mess. I gotta go to work. But I just want to point out that when I said that those videos made my day, I did not watch that last one. My God, I'm just horrified on how bad it actually got. And it explains why that document didn't go anywhere, because it literally implicated like all of them. Like all of them, because they were working with Holly, who was profiting off of the abuser's work. She was like selling merchandise of the guy after she knew he sexually assaulted a woman. So yeah, I mean, they all just dropped it, and now is the end of that. I'll talk more about this later, but I just need to get a quick video out, so I'll leave it there. And yeah, the producers were more awful than I thought, and not all of them knew about it, so I guess I can't blame them for that part, but it makes sense why they all dropped it afterwards. Because it made all of them look terrible, and it made Channel Awesome actually look really good, because they followed their legal obligations to a T immediately as well. So, I mean, good on Doug. He's a better guy than I thought. God damn. He did everything that he could, and he did it as fast as he could. So, yeah, good on Channel Awesome. They're the victims in this, and they did the right thing, and they said, yeah, we sorry you feel that way, and they just let it go, and they are successful to this day, while everyone else crashed and burned in a ditch. Except for a few of them, just like Benzai, who again, he was pretty cool, and Angry Joe, who destroyed his career later on, but, you know, still has millions of subscribers, so I guess that's not that big of a deal. And Linkara, but I mean, Linkara doesn't have any growth, so I guess he doesn't matter. And Lindsay Ellis quit her career altogether to raise a family. Again, good on her, I guess. Anyways, that's it. Bye.